الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمد صلى الله تعالى عليه وسلم وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Many a Muslim, they look at Ramadan as a time of decreased activity. They actually go into an unnatural state of hibernation, spend a lot of the time sleeping, fasting of course, alhamdulillah, or they just do nothing. And they literally become dull-brained, lazy, moody. However, if we look at the lives of our Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Sahaba Kiram and those who followed them, we see that in the month of Ramadan, we find the greatest activity took place. And we also found tremendous results were achieved in the month of Ramadan. We find that after Nabi alayhi salam did his hijrah, we find crucial events took place in the month of Ramadan. If you take the Battle of Badr, Nabi alayhi salam with 330 Sahaba set out to intercept a caravan of their own goods which were led back from Syria by Abu Sufyan, but they were met by 1,000 strong armed Quraysh. Despite being outnumbered 3-1 and weak, but the ardent fervor of our Nabi, of the Sahaba Kiram was there to serve Islam and to protect our Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we found a momentous victory recorded in the Quran. كَمْ مِنْ فِئَةٍ قَلِيلَةٍ غَلَبَتْ فِئَةً كَثِيرَةً بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ. How many times did you not see, said Allah, that a few in number overcomes a huge crowd bi-idhnillah, with the permission and help of Allah. And they were given victory in the month of Ramadan. It was called Yawm al-Furqan. We also see and find in a history the Treaty of Hudaybiyah also took place in the month of Ramadan. Actually, the treaty was broken in the month of Ramadan. And Nabi alayhi salam had to leave Medina, or he left Medina with 10,000 mujahideen, moving towards Makkatul Mukarramah. And they overcome, without any bloodshed, they took over Makkatul Mukarramah. And what a sweet victory it was. We also saw in the 9th year of Hijrah, Nabi alayhi salam returned victorious from the crucial battle of Tabuk against the Byzantines. We found the 50-day expedition which started in Rajab. They pushed back the Byzantines from the borders of the Arabian Peninsula. And after the demise of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this tradition of being active in the month of Ramadan still carried on. In the 11th year of Hijrah, the Muslims fought against and defeated the false prophets. Under the orders of Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu, Khalid bin Walid led a strong contingent of 3,000 strong army and overcome and beat them. We also saw in 13 years after Hijrah, also in the month of Ramadan, where the Persian princes mobilized the troops to meet the Muslims under the command of Mu'thanna ibn Haritha. And it was recorded thousands upon thousands were killed in this battle. If we go to Andalus, Spain, under the tyrannical rule of King Roderick of the Visigoths, his own people sought and asked for assistance of the Muslims of North Africa. Ya Allah. Today, our North African brothers come to our country and then we attack them senselessly in the xenophobic attack. We owe it to them, my dear brothers and sisters, because of their help or their ancestors' help in the past, that the Musa bin Nusayr, the governor, responded by dispatching Tariq ibn Ziyad with 12,000 mujahideen. And when they reached the shores of Andalus, what did they do? Tariq bin Ziyad said, burn your boats. And they burnt every single boat, and I'm speaking about their own boats. And he reminded the Muslims that Jannah lays ahead of them and defeat, and the sea is in the rear. And on the 28th of Ramadan, Roderick and his 90,000 strong army were completely annihilated. And Tariq and Musa succeeded in liberating Spain, Sicily, France, marking the beginning of the Islamic rule in Andalus. If we go and look in history with the battles of the Crusaders, for years, eventually a Salahuddin Ayyubi came along and finally drove them out of Syria and the whole of the occupied lands in Ramadan. Again, we look at the brutal Mongol armies of Genghis Khan. They were sweeping across Europe and Asia, destroying everything in their path. Then his grandson, Hulagu, continued this barbaric destruction by sacking Baghdad, the leading city of the Muslims. And as many as 1.8 million Muslims has been recorded, they were killed and slaughtered. And this was, in the middle of all this, came Saifuddin Qutb, who united the divided Muslims. And how do we need personalities like that today in the Arab world, my dear brothers? And as I mentioned in the evenings, when I gave a commentary of the coming fi'atin, how is it possible that so few can overcome so many? It is but with the help of Allah. Yet ironically, we're finding today Israel, who is so little, is overcoming so many. What has happened? And Allah has warned us in the Quran. If we don't do our jobs, we don't do it, we will be punished and will come from our own hands. ظهر الفساد في البر والبحر بما كسبت أيدي الناس. You will find corruption becoming apparent on the seas and on the land. As why? As a result of your own two hands. And hence we find Saifuddin Qutuz came along and he crushed the Mongols at Ain Jalut on the 26th of Ramadan. And the whole world, literally the whole world, at that time sighed a sigh of relief and stood in admiration at the noble sons of Islam. And this pattern continues, this courage and sacrifice continues up till today. That in the month of Ramadan, the United States invasion of Afghanistan in 2001 and in Iraq 2003, each Ramadan has been seen a marked increase in resistance attacks on the occupying soldiers. The first United States attempt was to invade the mosque of Fallujah in Iraq in 2004. We found similar ratios at the Badr. How many of our fellow Muslim brothers and sisters were killed in that year? Where the enemy was so much. But you know what happened? You know what happened? This is our recent history. Despite being overwhelmed by the American forces, they had one of the humiliating defeats in Iraq. They were forced to leave Fallujah. This defeat proved to be one of the most disgraceful and severe setbacks that the American empire had ever suffered. Acknowledging this setback, George Bush told a White House press conference in October 2006, he says, the situation is difficult in Iraq, no question about it. Attacks on us and our casualties have risen during the Ramadan period. A rise in violence has occurred every Ramadan period in the last 3 years, unquote. So we have to appreciate, my dear brothers, the relationship between Ramadan and jihad. We have to first understand the essence of jihad. Today, mashallah, we're living a carefree life. So what jihad are we talking about in our situation, in our context here? Dear brothers, jihadun nafs. To fight with ourselves. When Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, you are coming from a smaller jihad and you're going to a bigger jihad, the Sahabi Kiram asked, we have lost our families, friends, and so forth, and battles that we went into, and you say we're coming to a bigger jihad? The Prophet ﷺ said, yes, jihadun nafs. We have to strive, my dear brothers and sisters, for Allah's sake. And that is a true sign that a Muslim worships and serves none but Allah. قُلْ, says Allah in the Quran, قُلْ إِن كَانَ آبَاؤُكُمْ وَأَبْنَاؤُكُمْ وَإِخْوَانُكُمْ وَأَزْوَاجُكُمْ وأزواجكم وأموال اقترفتموها وتجارة تخشون كسادها ومساكن ترضونها أحب إليكم من الله ورسوله وجهاد في سبيله فتربصوا حتى يأتي الله بأمره والله لا يهدي القوم الفاسقين. Say, if your fathers, your sons, your brothers, your wives, your family, the wealth that you have gained, the commerce in which you fear a decline, and the dwellings in which you delight are dearer to you than Allah and His Rasul, and striving hard and fighting in His cause, then wait, says Allah, until Allah brings about His decision. Allah makes it clear in the Quran to us. We have to realize that we are not slaves to our work. We are not slaves to our spouses or our families or our wealth or any other aspect of our worldly life. We need to gain taqwa. And this month is telling us, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, kutiba alaykum as-siyam kama kutiba ala alladhina min qablikum la'allakum tattaqun. Oh, you who believe, fasting is prescribed for you, as it was prescribed for those before you. Why? That perhaps you may gain taqwa. La'allakum. So it's not a guarantee. The job is upon us that we should be able to gain taqwa. So when one performs the ibadah of fasting properly, it helps increase one's awareness of Allah. It trains the ruh. It strengthens the willpower. It helps control one's ego, increases one's patience, and refraining from haram, and it instills ikhlas within us. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to assist us in this venture. Also, this is also the month of Quran, my dear brothers and sisters. شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان. The month of Ramadan in which was revealed the Quran, a guidance for mankind and clear proofs for the guidance and the Furqan. In other words, the criteria between right and wrong. That's the Furqan. So Allah chose to send down the Quran and His revelations and wahi in this particular month. Ya subhanallah. Thereby honoring this month over all other months. Nabi alayhi salam explains in a hadith that the pages of Ibrahim were revealed during the first night of Ramadan. The Torah was revealed during the 6th night of Ramadan. The Injil was revealed in the 13th night of Ramadan. And Allah revealed the Quran on the 24th night of Ramadan. And this is found in the Musnad of Ahmad. We have to appreciate what this month of Ramadan means to us. We have to make sure that we use each and every available moment to benefit us. Despite it, Allah mentioned, أَوَمَنْ كَانَ مَيْتًا فَأَحْيَيْنَاهُ وَجَعَلْنَا لَهُ نُورًا يَمْشِي بِهِ فِي النَّاسِ كَمَنْ مَثَلَهُ فِي الظُّلُمَاتِ لَيْسَ بِخَارِجٍ مِنْهَا, is one who is dead, and we gave him life and made for him light by which to walk among the people, like the one who is in darkness, never to emerge therefrom. We have to ask that question to ourselves. Are we just going through the motions? Is that what it is all about? No, it is not. The Quran is there as a guide and as a shifa. It's like living without air. قُلْ هُوَ لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا هُدًى وَشِفَى. Say, Ya Rasulullah, it is for those who believe a guidance and a cure. And this is our weapon. So we have to respond to what Allah has given us. The Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam also says in Sahih al-Bukhari, it is a month of Quran. He says the example of a believer is he who recites the Quran and acts on it is like a citrus fruit which tastes nice and smells nice. And the example of a believer who does not recite the Quran but acts on it, it is like a date that tastes sweet but has no smell. And the example of a munafiq, hypocrite, who recites Quran is like a rihana, an aromatic plant which smells good but it is bitter in taste. And the example of a hypocrite who does not recite the Quran is like a bitter fruit which tastes bitter and it also smells bad. May Allah in His infinite mercy make sure that we are of the former. In one of the evenings I spoke about the Quran when the radio was here on Wednesday, and I feel I should share this qissa of the importance of the Quran in the life of this lady. Subhanallah. This lady, she was an elderly lady and she spoke nothing but the Quran, and she found her way lost as she was going for Hajj. And Sayyidina Abdullah bin Mubarak radiallahu anh comes across her and sees her in the state of distress. And he says, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. And the lady answers, bearing in mind, she only speaks Quran. And we are told by the Rawi, by the narrator, she has been speaking Quran for 40 years. No other language. Obviously she was in Arabia. So when she responded, she says, Salamun alaykum, Salamun qawlam min Rabbir Rahim. The word from a merciful Allah is peace. So she's responding. And she goes further. مَن يُضْلِلِ اللَّهُ فَلَا هَادِيَ لَهُ. Those whom Allah sends astray, there is no guide for them. In other words, she's implying that she has lost her way. And he continues the question. He says, where are you coming from, lady? And she answers, Subhanalladhi yasra bi'abdihi laylan min al-masjid al-haram ila al-masjid al-aqsa. Glorified is He who carried His servant by night from Masjidul al-Aqsa to Masjidul al-Haram. So she was saying she's coming from Masjidul al-Aqsa and she's going to the Haram. Want to know how long are you lost in this particular place that you find yourselves? How long are you lost? And she answered, ثَلَاثَ لَيَالٍ سَوِيًّا. 3 nights, she said. And what arrangement have you made for food? Are you okay? وَالَّذِي هُوَ يُطْعِمُنِي وَيَسْقِينِ. He says, and it is He who feeds me and gives me to drink. In other words, Allah must be sending. Rizq is put out. Of course, it's time for Salah, so he's asking, is there any water for wudu? He's asking her, is there any water for wudu? You know, it's not like us, mashallah, you come to a tap, you open the tap. Those years, there was no tap, you had to go fetch and look for water. So you ask for water, and she answers, فَلَمْ تَجِدُوا مَاءً فَتَيَمَّمُوا سَعِيدًا طَيِّبًا فَامْسَحُوا بِوُجُوهِكُمْ وَأَيْدِيكُمْ. The lady says, and if you find no water, perform tayammum with clean earth and rub there with your faces and your hands. Subhanallah. Eventually, Sayyidina Abdullah gives her some food and she says, ثُمَّ أَطِمُّ الصِّيَامَ إِلَى اللَّيْلِ. He says, then complete your fast till the nightfall. She's implying she's fasting. But Sayyidina Abdullah protests, but it's not Ramadan. It's not the month of Ramadan. وَمَنْ تَتَوَّأَ خَيْرًا فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ شَاكِرٌ عَلِيمٌ. And she answers, and he who does good of his own accord, verily Allah is responsive and aware. Sayyidina Abdullah persists. It is permitted to break your fast on this journey. وَأَنْ تَصُومُوا خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ. And that you fast is better for you if you but only knew. By now, Sayyidina Abdullah bin Mubarak is quite probably frustrated. And he says, speak like I speak, normal Arabic. And she says, مَا يَلْفِظُ مِنْ قَوْلٍ إِلَّا لَدَيْهِ رَقِيبٌ عَتِيدٌ. Not a word does he or she utter, but there is a recorder by him to record whatever he says. Ya Allah. Eventually he gets now a bit annoyed and he's starting another way. He says, what tribe do you belong to? What clan do you come from? وَلَا تَقَفُ مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٍ إِنَّ السَّمْعَ وَالْبَصَرَ وَالْفُؤَادَ كُلُّ أُولَئِكَ كَانَ عَنْهُ مَسْئُولًا. He says, do not follow that which you got no knowledge of. The hearing and the sight and the heart of each of this will be asked on the day of Yawm al-Qiyamah. He answers, oh, forgive me, I have made a mistake. And she answers, لا تثريب عليكم لا تثريب عليكم اليوم يغفر الله لكم. Have no fear this day. May Allah forgive you. That is a conversation that Nabi Yusuf alayhi salam had with his brothers when eventually they met up in Cairo. And this conversation is very, very long. And just for brevity, I'll be cutting out a few of the conversations. And eventually, he tells her, come get on my camel, on my caravan, and I'll give you a lift. And of course, he's now walking, and he's now starting to recite this famous Huddi Arabic song. It's a song very popular in Arabia, and they are walking and so forth. And now he's running and he's going fast. And the lady says, وَقَصِدْ فِي مَشِيكَ وَاغْضُضْ مِنْ صَوْتِكَ إِنَّ أَنْكَرَ الْأَصْوَاتِ لَصَوْتُ الْحَمِيرِ. This is being moderate in your walking and lower your voice. Be humble in your voice. She did not say the balance of the ayat which I shared now, because she was very tactful. Because what does the next ayat mean? Inna ankara al-aswati la sawtul hamir. Very, the worst sound that you can hear is the sound of a donkey. So obviously he would have been very upset, but I just read it because it's in context with Nabi Luqman giving advice to his son. And of course he begins to walk slow. And the lady says, فَقْرَؤُوا مَا تَيَسَّرَ مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ. Recite of the Quran that which is easy for you. And then he starts reciting the Quran, subhanallah. And the lady becomes very pleased. And she said, وَمَا يَذَّكَّرُ إِلَّا أُولُو الْأَلْبَابِ. But none remember and accept advice except men of understanding, subhanallah. Then he goes into another rikhtam. She says, oh auntie, have you a husband? I'm sure you in Cape Town was like, you might klop al weer aan. You know, he's probably hitting on to this lady now. And look how she answers. She says, يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تسألوا عن أشياء إن تبد لكم تسؤكم. O you who believe, ask not of things which if they were made known unto you would make trouble for you. In other words, that is the reality of it. And I'm carrying on. Finally, they catch up with the caravan or the people which she was traveling. And she said, do you have any sons or relatives in this caravan which has any connection or contact with you? And she says, المال والبنون زينة الحياة الدنيا. It says, wealth and children are but ornament of the life of this world. They are the decoration of this world. So what are your sons? Are they working? What are they doing? How can I recognize them? وعلامات بالنجم هم يهتدون. And landmarks, and by the star they find a way. In other words, they are guides in the caravan. Can you tell them your names? What are their names? And she answers, وَاتَّخَذَ اللَّهُ إِبْرَاهِيمَ خَلِيلًا يَا يَحْيَا خُذِ الْكِتَابَ بِقُوَّةٍ. All Quranic ayats. She says one's name is Ibrahim and the one's name is Yahya. Eventually they meet up and the lady tells her children, because he helped her, he says to her children, فَبَعَثُوا أَحَدَكُمْ بِوَرَقِكُمْ هَذِهِ إِلَى الْمَدِينَةِ فَلْيَنْظُرْ أَيُّهَا أَزْكَى طَعَامًا فَلْيَأْتِكُمْ بِرِزْقٍ مِّنْهُ وَلْيَتَلَطَّفْ. She says to the children, now send one of you with a silver coin into the city and let him see what food is purest there and bring you a supply thereof. As you know, this is from Surah Kahf, where Allah calls these youths, إِذْ أَوَلْ فِتْيَةُ إِلَى الْكَهْفِ فَقَالُوا رَبَّنَا. These youths went to go sleep, escaped tyrant, and went to go into a cave, and they slept there for many centuries, and eventually they came out and they had to go buy food, and of course they paid with the coins, which was still a couple of 100 years old. That was just a quick story. And when the food was brought to Sayyidina Abdullah bin Mubarak, she tells her, كُلُوا وَاشْرَبُوا هَنِيئًا بِمَا أَسْلَفْتُمْ فِي الْأَيَّامِ الْخَالِيَةِ. She says, eat and drink with relish, with ease, that which you sent on before you in the past. Subhanallah. May Allah make us of those, because that what is how we will be addressed on the day of Eid al-Fitr, the last night that we're going to fast. Because it was asked of Nabi Musa, is there anybody, alayhi salam, that has this closeness between you and me, Ya Allah? Because he was Musa, taklima, kallam Allah. And he says, yes, there will be a community that will come after you, that my veil will be so close to them that I will drop off between you and me, says Nabi Allah Jalla Jalaluhu. There's 100,000 veils. But the time when my believer breaks his fast, there's only one veil between me and him. Subhanallah. And that's when we break fast. That's why when we break fast, we must hurry to break fast. And we must make dua to make fast. And this is what Allah mentioned. Kulu washrabu, eat and drink with ease, with relish for what you have done in the past that you have sent forward. And of course the lady is so happy and she wants to show the gratefulness and courtesy. And she tells Abdullah bin Mubarak, هل جزاء الإحسان إلا الإحسان. Is there any reward for good other than good? Of course not. May Allah in His infinite mercy make us that we eat and drink with relish after we have fasted the month of Ramadan. That Allah accept all our recitals of Quran. That Allah give us everything that our hearts desires, that is good for us, not materialistic for us, good for us. And may Allah protect all of you, all your. For those who are ill, may Allah give shifa and kamila. Those who have passed away, Allah give them Jannatul Firdaus and light in the qubur, Ya Arhamar Rahimin. May Allah forgive me and bless you.